Okay, so today we're going to do skeletal tracking eventually. So we're going to work on that by making avatars first. I have a list of everything we're going to go over in my little notepad here. And there we go. All right. So what I'm doing here, and just so you know, is I am demoing. I am showing you things that are possible. I'm not really, I don't want to say it this way, I'm not really teaching. I somewhat am. Teaching is, I feel like, one-on-one. It's office hours. It's the times when we can really connect and I can give you personalized attention. I'm demoing to show you things that you could then ask me about later on. I want to show you the possibilities, and then it's screen recorded, and then from there, learn what you want. You don't have to know everything I'm teaching you. Just learn what's necessary for you, and don't get overwhelmed by. Definitely make sure that I'm being clear. But don't worry about what did you do again, because it's recorded and I'm describing it as I go along, right? So definitely feel free to interject if you feel like I'm skipping steps or anything like that. That's perfectly thing. But like, you're not trying to code along with me. That's why it's not really important to have a production computer right now. Okay. So what we have is, did I ever hit the record button? Yes, I did. We have a scene we made last week, right? 2 weeks ago. I just had some content I brought in from my marketplace, and then I had the scene that's called I think it's called the minimal default. It has the Ames chairs with the vase, and then I threw in some of this stuff, like I threw in this wall right here. I went around the layout and I showed you all the different things in a clockwise manner, and I said a lot of what you're going to be doing is that's your content browser. It's all the assets you have you can throw into the world. And here's all the details right here on the right side that you can change. And there's lots of them. But what's cool is that they're all exposed for you. You don't have to code these things. They're all things that you can drag and drop and click. And then this little smaller window right here, these are all the assets in the inside of my scene. So I could double click on a chair, and it'll take me to that chair, and everything that's in here correlates to that, right? So the first thing you would notice about this wall is that it is a static mesh. That is static mesh. The wall is a wall. The second thing that's important is that it has a material, otherwise known as a shader for some people. And I'm going to show you how to create a quick material, because it'll come into play when we bring in our characters, which will bring in materials with them. I'm going to create my own root folder. Nothing you buy from the asset store will ever be called assets. This is reserved for our own content. So I always start with assets. That is the root of my folder. This, we can go over a style guide later, but this is agreed upon by all people using Unreal for working in teams. Assets. And then from here, I'm going to say materials. And I can bring in my own skeletal meshes. Right? These are things that have bones that animate. And that gets us started. So my head's too big. So I'm right-clicking in this content browser because I want to make a new material. I want to make a new thing, and the thing is, here's the four most used things: making a new level, making a new code snippet, which is blueprints, making a new particle system, and we're going to make a material. Okay, material is my naming convention is m_material. Some people like to put an M at the end. You have to decide upon that with your team you're working with. And then you open it up. And here you have another node-based editor. This is the material editor. I showed very briefly the blueprint editor. Everything in Unreal, if you want to, could just be drag and drop node-based stuff, so you don't have to worry about too much. Everything on the right, that's called the palette, is everything you can do in the material editor. It's things like constants, right? Like a constant would be the number 1. Or an RGB value could be a constant, right? I'm going to start with one of those. I want to have an RGB, right? So that's 3 different values. That's called a constant 3 vector. Bring it out. There I have it. I can also right-click and do a constant 3 vector. Or I know that there's a little, you probably can't see it here, keyboard shortcuts for the most used one. I can just hold down the button 3 and click. There's 3 ways of making a constant, okay? Double click, got myself a color wheel. It's blue, bada bing, bada boom. Here's a lot of things you can use. This is called a physically based rendering texture. The different properties are color, metallic, how shiny it is, right? If it looks like it's metal, it has more shine. Specular is like the white little glints of how the highlights hit it from light. Roughness, it could be smooth or rough, right? It could be like a rubber ball, which is very rough, or it could be a polished a metal sphere. It could be really smooth. And then emissive. Emissive means that it glows, right? We'll start off with these, and then moving into opacity, like how much transparency do you have and stuff. So I didn't say to make it a color. There you go. Connect the dots. Hit save. Dock it up here. I've got red, and you get a red. There you go. We're making a shader of a 3 constant. We could do scalar parameters too. We could turn this into variables. Let's not get there too much. I just want you to understand that's a material. We're going to deal with materials in a second. Okay. So I'm going to make sure I don't skip any steps. All right. So let's do fuse first. Fuse is the easiest. Oh, fuse, we barely knew ye. So this is a parametric design tool. Everything is on sliders. How much of all these different things do you want to apply? But first of all, we have to build a body. Like we were talking about with that whole uncanny valley thing, I would go more toonish with this stuff. I mean, it's to your own taste, but when it gets to it's to your own taste. But it can get really silly pretty quickly, or it can be pretty crazy. Zombies, all these different things. Mix and match your own body parts. There's an old Tales from the Crypt about this starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, but that's not for here and there. There is bodies, right? You can see there's some themes, right? I could stay with the tune idea, or I can completely give this, a zombie body. Yeah! We can also go back to that torso and try a different one, right? There we go. Male teen. Teen Titan. There we go. Just quickly going through this. Great. So now we have some sort of a body. And we can now move on to customizing it. This is what I was talking about, parametric design. Every single different parts of geometry has what we would call, instead of animation where it's bones, it has point level geometry where, these polygons that are part of these 3D meshes, each one can kind of morph and do different things, like bulge and give you biceps, and give you different features of thinner or fatter, all this stuff. Like, I want this bicep to be big. You can see it grows. Right? So that's all built into, this is important for when we get to facial tracking. This is called point level animation. And each different piece of software gives it a different a name. Like this is, in Maya, this is called a blend shape. And Unreal is called a morph target. Just giving the information. We'll go over it again. How long it is, right? Johnny Longarms. Bobby Big Neck. There you go. So you got all these. You have to give it really funny names, right? So how big is the forearm? Where's the thing? So this is parametric design, which is really cool. So you can actually get at these morph targets later on. Face. We can get a facial pose, right? We're not going to do that here because we're actually going to utilize the fact that these already exist and drive them with ARKit in 2 weeks. But that's cool that it's already here. And there's also the wonderful random button. So, if you want to give it a roll, there you go. Then teeth, give it teeth, head, all that kind of stuff is fine. I'm going to keep this pretty straightforward. Doesn't matter to me. Clothing, have fun. With animation, it's easier not to do anything that flows too much. I am going to try to see if I can squeeze in doing clothing simulations in this class, but for now, keep it kind of form-fitting, so you don't have to deal with the fact that when they walk, a dress kind of like sticks to one leg and the other leg, and it looks like it's wearing weird, like, I don't even know what that would be, like some sort of melon on either leg. So I stick with it pretty close, just because we're doing mocap. That looks like a dandy suit and shirt combo. Bottoms. So you guys can figure this out, right? I think a little bit rebellious. Oh no, fireman pants for sure. That actually looks kind of good. I don't know, but I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Let's give the poor boy some boots. I don't see the Doc. Oh, the first one, pretty much. I don't know. Now I see cowboy boots or saddle shoes. They're pretty much, yeah, saddle shoes. Hair, again, try to keep it close. Again, it's going to look weird if a ponytail is always stuck to the shoulder. I'll tell you guys about weight maps in like 2 seconds once we export it. But it's basically these polygons are being associated with like this arm and not this head, so it doesn't move right. So stay close for right now for motion capture to keep it easy on yourself. But this is a full-on wavy hair piece that we can... No? Too much? It looks weird. For sure. Can I select it and delete it? Yeah. And what's cool about this kind of stuff is you can actually find out where this is installed on your computer and add new assets and then pull it from the menu. Both the softwares can do this. Always, hats are fun. Oh no, I'm actually going to put on the paintball helmet. We actually are going to be using this for our face tracking. So it has like a little GoPro attachment that sits in front for paintball or for tactical ops or whatever. All right, cool. That looks good. Stay away from eyewear for right now. It doesn't stay merged. It like kind of flies off. Facial hair, unless you know Maya really well, or if you know digital content creation tools, I'd stay away from any kind of facial hair for now. Gloves are fine. Mask would be fine, but it would get in the way of face tracking later on. That's good enough for me. And textures, and again, you can load a bunch of textures from Photoshop. It like has a little bridge to it. We're going to go ahead and send it to Mixamo. It has a button in there. It's designed for Mixamo. It's part of the Adobe suite. Okay. Give it a name so I can find it later on. Bobby McFirepants. Did I spell all right? Fiore Pants. He's Italian. And it's not even putting it on my computer. It's going to go straight to the cloud. I probably have to open up a browser. And now it's going to do the thing where it adds the bones, or what they call joints. It's auto-rigging. When we used Make Human in 2 seconds, I'll also show you how to just upload something in auto-rig that you maybe find from the internet or something. And it says it may take up to 2 minutes.
Did you already log into the...
No, this is not even... We're not even doing the motion capture yet. This is going to be using a database. This stuff is just straightforward. It's just it's about just spending the time to know that you can do certain things and that reading all the different details. So Mixamo was acquired by Adobe in 2015 and became like more robust. It has a large database of characters and animations, like hundreds of characters, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of animations. This has been rigged now. I'll show you in a second what the rig looks like. There's a couple options here. It says skeletal LOD, and you know what a lot is? Level of detail. We're going to use 65 bones, which means it does all the articulated joints in the hands. Level of detail. And then the first one, facial blend shapes. Yes. We're going to steal them. Enabled. All right. You can see if I change it to like 2 fingers, it's just doing this, right? And then this whole no fingers that's the paddle hands I was talking about. All right. We're going to do standard skeleton. Update it. And we haven't done the mocap, but if you're a Fortnite player, you might know of a thing called a T-pose. And a T-pose is something we're going to do every time we start a take and end a take. And you usually model a character in an A pose, like if you're making an A. It's more naturalistic, and it makes like the shoulders and the arms look better for modeling. But for animation, we usually then move it up to a T-pose. It gives it a lot more space. You don't end up having these weird deformations underneath the arms on the torso. Too much fun. So it's like doing its own like algorithm of like machine learning. It knows what the body parts look like and applying it. So great. And we're going to use this character now, and it's going to. We could download it if we want to. Let's go ahead and download it. And it should be. So it gives me the option to put it into a T-pose. That's how important this is. So download. It's very important for the retargeting process to have it in T-pose. The cloud is slow today. What's up with the cloud? As they say, the cloud is just somebody else's computer. If you want to. Many ways to rig. I'm going to save this fuse file so I can come back to it in 2 weeks. So I'm just going to call this class 03. And then close it up. Fuse with shapes, download. All right, great. We're almost there. Okay. So now let's go ahead and animate it. And then here's the whole database of animations. I don't know. Marcel, give me a motion. Give me something. Just first thing comes to mind. Running. All these different runs. And it's even trying to make a gender binary statement that there's a female run and a male run, which is notated by the pink and blue colors. That's its own commentary. But we see that we have different kinds of runs and turns, and these things are little snippets that are great for video games. Because video games are just a bunch of really tiny things. Well, we usually do more long-form stuff in a narrative context, but if you're doing a video game, this can get you super, super far. So this is running, carrying laundry, right? It's looking pretty sneaky, actually. It's like he's trying to steal something away. We're probably going to do most of the time just in place, and we'll animate it with like data later on. So that's what the in place thing is there for. You can change like the arm space. Like this is like that retargeting thing I was talking about. It gives more room in case they have more girth, or if they're a little more skeletal, bring them back in. And then you can see there's our skeleton there. That's our 64 bones or 65 bones.
So if you're making a game, do you need to download each of these separate animations?
They make packs though. So you can, if you look for pack, it'll say like zombie pack, and it'll be all the different things, like 25 different things you can download at once. Action pack, all that kind of stuff. So it saves you time cataloging them. I don't know if you can make your own packs. They really haven't done much with Mixamo in a while, and they could do so much more. Like if I could talk to the guy, I would tell him a few things about what he could do with his tool. But anyway, you can navigate around this and see what they're doing. And then when I'm ready to download, I can. Oh, they added Send to Arrow. Arrow is Adobe's AR platform, so they are still doing things. So I'm going to download, and the file. This is interesting, and this is something to keep in mind. FBX, but we no longer need the skin. We just need the data. When I get to Unreal, I'll show you that we're going to import the character first, and then just put the data onto the skeleton. It saves hundreds of megabytes, and it keeps the character centralized. It makes it easier to deal with. That way I'm just dealing with one character instead of every time bringing in another skin. I could download it with skin and then still in the import script the skin later on. That sounds horrible. Okay, we won't deal with that. But anyway, I'm going to do it without skin. It's just data. I got running. I'm not going to do a pack because that takes a little while to install, but this is also terrifying. Let's go ahead and do that one too. Without skin, download. Cool. So that gets us to a certain point with Bobby McFirepants. Let's go ahead and import it in. Let's jump over to Unreal real quick. Back in Assets, I made the folder for skeletal meshes, and I'm going to make one for Bobby. And we're going to import it in. And all you have to do is drag and drop. Or you can use the import button. So I put this in my downloads, I think. And there's Firepants. I'm not going to do the animations yet. I can, but I'm not going to because I want to make this explicit, the steps and this process, and it helps you like debug better. Just do the animation or do the character by itself. This will be a skeletal mesh. It'll have this character and the skeleton it came in with. Usually defaults are all safe. We're not bringing in animation. And to save myself from getting a warning, I'm going to force it to use frame 0. It's just an error that it's not even an error, it's a warning. And I just know from previous experience that Mixamo like saves everything on frame 1 and then it errors out. Just say, I'm going to force you to be frame 0 before animation. This is our core asset. It's before animation exists. So frame 0 as a reference point. So it gives you a little tooltip. It is frame 0 as a reference pose. That's it. Everything else default. Import it all. Has anyone gotten this far with the game engine so far? Before Unity, Unreal, has anyone done this with Mixamo? Yes, yeah. Do you know what happens now with the way they look? It's horrifying.
Yeah.
It's truly horrifying. This is why I showed materials a little ahead of time, because our cooking show was going to come back to that one and talk about the horrifying way these guys look. So game engines to run real time, they render in a different pipeline than Maya and Blender and all that kind of stuff. They run transparency at the very end because it's like a really heavy process, and they kind of save it for the end so they can like defer it. It's called deferred rendering. You can change that and do forward rendering. Again, these are errors. These are warnings. They're yellow. Don't just ignore warnings. We live on the dangerous side. Only errors do we pay attention to. I'm holding down control and using my mouse wheel. I can kind of zoom in and out of these different assets. You see that they're all color coordinated. Materials are green. Those are materials right there. These red ones are textures. You put textures in a material, you combine them all together, and they become a material. Different parts of the body have different materials. You're limited to what size of texture you can put on certain body parts. You want to have a certain resolution. Therefore, you want to give just the face its own texture, so you can give it 4K resolution. And then do the pants separately. And this is all modeling that we're not really going to get to the class. That's a little backstory of it. And usually these things are power of 2 rectangles. They're 256 by 256, 512 by 512, 1024 by 1024, 2048, 4096. Yes. A texture is like a JPEG or a PNG. You stack them together, and then they become a shader or a material. Let's say that we were talking about. Like this. We would have probably a black and white texture for opacity or transparency, and that would be applied here and here. Then we would have a texture for this logo. And then we probably want to use a little bit of texture for this plastic, right? This would be a matte, smooth, non-metallic texture. And so all these different textures are combined together to make a material, which we open up in a second. You'll see. The core thing is down here. Pink is skeletal mesh. The physics asset is a peach, I'd say. And then the skeleton here is a light blue. If you're looking for something in your big project, you can use filters and then filter by all the things in the game engine. And let's say I want to try to find my skeletal mesh. I say filter by skeletal meshes, and there it is. So these are a good way of like dialing down into the thing you want. Or also, I can search for Bobby, right? And get rid of that thing, and then there's Bobby too. Or so I get rid of that thing, and there's all the things that are called Bobby something. So you can either search or do filters. And then if you ever have too many filters, just get rid of them. Let's take a look and be horrified. Well, put the hat on. So we get inside the eyeballs. I want to go a little slower with my camera speed, so I'm going to make it really slow. See how it's like I can see inside his mouth, but it's like weird backwards? It's because the face has little holes for the eyes to poke out, and the eyelashes have little cuts for the edges of them, and all the things that are using transparency is rendering wrong, and we need to go into the material and change it to be not transparent, but what's called masked. It's either on or off. Let's not render transparency. It's actually pretty heavy to render. We're going to fix this. I think the shirt... Yeah. Once we're inside of it, there's the eyeballs from the inside. Right? Mouth. All right, so let's fix this. Over here, all the different materials. Like the hat has a material, right? That's probably right here. I can highlight it, or I can isolate it to make sure I know what I'm talking about. And then these are all the materials for those different slots or material IDs. Let's go over to our face. That's the eyes. Let's do it. Double click. Here I am. Remember all those nodes we had before? Marianne, here's all your textures that are making up that one material. And all we care about is the one that's doing this transparency thing, this opacity. So I'm going to select the main node, and I don't want it to be translucent anymore. I want it to be masked. I don't want to deal with transparency. And this is just a Mixamo only thing. This is the only time you're going to encounter this. So instead of being opacity, where it's a gradient between 0 and 1, it's slightly transparent. We want it to be on or off. We want to make these masks for where you have holes for the eyes and stuff. You can actually take this little wire. If I hold down Control, I can drag it to the next one. Okay, and then we hit save. You have to hit save for it to actually show up, and then it compiles.
I thought you saved it without the skin.
I saved the animations without the skin. The initial character I saved as that T-pose with the skin. I haven't even brought in the animations yet. Cool, so let's fix a few more. I don't even know what I just fixed. Fixed the eyes. Now you can see that the eyelashes look right. Very important. Very important. There's the eyeballs. Not as important as just... Let's fix the guy's face. Same thing. I want to change it to be masked. And then I want to move it to the mask. And then as we move on and we get more materials, we can look at all these other nodes. And there's lots of documentation on them. So much effort to create a life, you know? Who would have thought? All right, so that we might be able to recognize them now. There we go. All right, so that just fixed it. You have to do that with just anything that's kind of like transparent and see-through. This gets us going, and I'm happy with it. Oh, you see, there's some other mistakes, but I'll fix one more. There we go. I should write a script to fix this automatically. That's what we'll do next. We'll come up with that. All right, so now we have our thing in space. And I'm so happy, and I want to show my friends on Instagram. So let's take a screenshot of them. And, this is actually something we do in mocap. We actually do the airplane. You leave the room and you come back in the room in a T-pose. We doing the airplane. And the camera, sometimes they get confused, and then you're like, oh, there you are again. I couldn't see you for a while. And so Bobby's doing mocap with us, and he's going to come in doing the airplane. There you go. Facing the right way. Rotation. Here comes Bobby. Great. And I see him from this perspective, and I'm going to hit the tilde button, which is usually on the top left of your computer, and it brings up this little console. And I'm going to say high res shot. It auto-completed it for me. And then I hit space, and I can do a multiplier. This can do a multiplier of up to 16 times. You can actually do a really high fidelity poster out of this, which is really, really amazing. So let's do 4. Hit enter. It's going to put a little hyperlink at the bottom right. And then I've made a huge screenshot. All right, we can really get in some details in here. It's really cool. And so now we have the high-res screenshot. So that's your homework, is to make some screenshots, and this is a good way of getting in there. You can always just do print screen, but this is if you want to crop later on. So that if you missed the hyperlink, remember that everything in your content browser is actually mirrored onto your Finder or your Explorer. So if I hit right-click on content and say, show me in, where did I say that? I say, show me in Explorer. It's going to open up the Explorer, and you'll see that these folders match those folders. Right? So that's a quick way of finding my project. And this saved folder has screenshots in it. And there you go. That's how to find it if you miss the hyperlink before it goes away. Go to your root project folder and go to saved. Later on, we do version control, or when we start putting things on thumb drives, I'm always going to say delete the saved folder, because it's also where your crash logs go and auto saves go, and it gets really bulky. We don't sync it to version control. It's something just for you personally. Just there's the save folder, muzzle top. So I'm going to go ahead and save. Just a quick note, save right here, that's like the first thing people see. They see the little disk icon, which, does anyone know what that icon even means? That means save, but has anyone ever actually held a 2.5 inch floppy disk? Anyone? Okay. Yeah, so that's skeuomorphic, right? That's referencing something that no one even uses anymore. It's kind of funny. It says underneath it, save current. A lot of people don't see that. It's literally going to save the thing that's selected in your content browser, and people close the project like, oh, where did everything go? Your real one is called save all down there. And it's going to save everything I just imported. Let's get some animations in here. All right, I'm going to make a folder for animations because this is already getting a little bit crazy. I can easily also make a new folder for all these textures and grab all the red ones. Where'd it go? I totally just made it, didn't I? Assets. Skeleton meshes, Bobby. New folder. Textures. Make this a little simple for us. And then it gives the option to either move or copy. I want to move it here. I don't need a copy of it. Great. So now it's a little more simplified. What's going on? Oh, it's because I have that text there, the filter. There we go. Everything's working fine. Textures are up there. Bobby's here. Materials right here. I can make a folder for materials if I cared. I'll make a folder for animations. And then I'm going to drag these other suckers over there. Running and running crawl. Import it. Now, if I had the option, if I export it with a skin, it would say import skin, and you'd say no. I don't want it right now. So that's how you strip off somebody's skin. But what I want to do is make sure I put it on the same skeleton. And I found Bobby. Pretty easy. Animation length. Don't trim it. You could trim it here if you wanted to. And bring it all in. Here we go. We're running. We have a list of all our animations over here. We have a timeline right here. And you can do all sorts of stuff in this layout. He's carrying something. And so now we can just bring in these assets. He's stealing treasure. How about that? He's running with treasure. Let's rotate him away. There we go. He's running away. What are the other treasure things we got? Do we have a bag of gold? Let's see. Yes. A little goblet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this goblet and I'm going to parent it underneath Bobby. Oh, wait, to make it movable. Sorry. It needs to be able to be moved. And I'm parent under Bobby. And it tells me what bone do I want to put it on. I'm going to put it on his... let's put it on a spine bone. And we're going to zero it out. And there it is. Oh, wrong Bobby. This one's just called running. Spine bone. Zero it out again. I should do the other one. Anyway, offset it. Bring it down. Make it bigger. I can make it bigger on each axis, or if I select in the center, make it bigger on all axes. There you go. There he is. Just running away with the goblet now. Alright. Simulate. What a thief. All right. And I think I talked about blueprints a little bit. If I was going to do that a bunch of times, instead of copying and pasting both assets together, I'd make a blueprint that was Bobby with a thing, and then every time I dragged it out, it's a way of combining things together. And kind of later on in the semester, we'll get into that. But there you go. I have an animation, and I now have it inside of Unreal. That's the first homework assignment. You need to take a little bit longer, but this is within scope. I do want to show you Make Human because we'll be using it because it has a lot of really cool integrations with Blender. So Make Human. I have a little shortcut on my desktop. Again, this is open source, and there's a whole forum for this. And this gets wacky. Like, people submit like user generated things, and this is where you can, if you figure it out, and it takes a little time to figure it out, you can load in tons of stuff into here, like wings and Shrek ears and horns, and you can really go crazy. It by itself is kind of a little like, oh, that's not, but you can get into, you can do genitalia, like just anything your heart's content. But for right now, I'll just show you it as is. 2 weeks, I'll show you how to extend Make Human a little more with plugins. But it's a wonderful, again, conversation starter, which is everything's on sliders. Such things as gender, there's a slider for African, Asian, and Caucasian. And as you move one, it moves the other three. Just an interesting kind of idea. Different proportions. Again, these are all morph targets. These are all blend shapes, all things. These are what we're going to be able to extract for facial tracking later on because they're already built into the system. You just have to expose it in other pieces of software. Age, from the cradle to the grave. So it's there's a lot here. So the layout goes in this one is now we talk about gender related things like breast size. Let's see, face stuff like round face, square face, that kind of stuff. Right, real square face there. Torso proportions. Again, this is all this kind of stuff that makes sense. Arms, legs, and then our favorite, which is the random button. Okay. Just roll. Oh. Okay. I'm not going for anything. I'm just, Anyway, so we could say what we want to randomize. Okay. So then that gets us through all the modeling. So we now have like the asset, and then we go to geometries, and these are things like: does it need a cocked fedora? Yes, it needs a cocked fedora. Is it wearing a female sports suit? I don't know if they sell sports suits like this anymore. That's more like, this is like Spice Girls era. Definitely some shoes. And again, these are just a few things, and it seems really limited. That's because you have to go to like the forums and find like Star Trek uniforms and all sorts of crazy stuff that they have. We'll do the male casual suit. What happened to our abdomen? Uh-oh. I glitched it out. I think that I broke the system. There we go. Make Human logo. Getting into things like high poly, low poly eyes. Hair, of course, as I said, we want to keep it kind of close. If we move to engine version 424, we can also start doing hair simulations too. So I was waiting for a couple of our plugins to, I was waiting for one of our plugins to update before I commit to it. Give it some teeth with tongue. That doesn't matter. Eyebrows, sure, why not? Anyway, you guys can get the idea. Eyelashes, actually, probably not. Sure, tongue. And then you can start changing all these different presets. Again, this is a tune setting. There's all sorts of different things. These are some presets. I have no idea what that even looks like. Whatever. Okay. And then, so we have skin, we have hair, we have eyes, we have all different textures. Ooh, so, You give it some purple eyes. And then the most important thing is, like, do we give it a skeleton or not? We're not going to give it a skeleton here. You can, but we're never going to give it a skeleton here. We're going to actually use Blender to give us a skeleton that's exactly like Fuse so that our workflow is synonymous. I want to keep it as simple as possible. So no skeleton, but we do want to go to pose. And at the very bottom, it's that T-pose. That's the last step. Then let's go over to files, and we're going to, let's save it so I can come back to it later on. I'll put my downloads, and I'll call this one also class 2. Sorry, class 3. And we'll hit, that's fine, we'll save that one, and then we'll export it to an FBX. Did it save? I guess it saved. Okay, I thought I was going to wait for it. Here's all these other different kind of file formats. Again, we're going to do Filmbox, FBX, and Peter Cockhat. Nah, yeah, sure, why not? Peter Cockhat. Export it. Did I even say where I wanted to export it yet? Downloads. Sure. There he is. Ready to go. No. Okay, cancel. It's already exported. Good. So I can close this, and then let's just show you the auto rigging and make human real quick. We're not going to worry about doing any animations for this one. You already know that process. So let's go over to Miximo's main page. Say characters, potentially upload character. Drag it here. There we go. I think the scale might be off in this. I think I was supposed to change the scale. I will see in a second. So I just want to see. I want you to see this process. I need to now tell it, help it out to understand the machine learning of the body, right? So we want to see where the chin is. I can help you out and tell you the chin is right there. The wrists, it's symmetrical, so I can move them both together. Elbows. Knees and the groin, and again I'll give it fingers, so standard skeleton, it's symmetrical, and then do next. It is only, it doesn't have its textures in there. If you want to have its textures, I think you're supposed to zip it up first and throw it in there. I can always find the textures from the original model, so it's not really that important for me. Because I'm going to be downloading just data. I'm not downloading with the mesh. But if it's important for you to see the textures while they're animating in Miximo, then I think that's all you do is just zip up the FBX and then drag it in. In the meantime, while it's doing its handy-dandy algorithm, I'm going to go ahead and bring in Peter. And it will also have the terrifying transparent look. Oh, look, ready to go. Alright, so let's go to animations. Great. Hi, Peter. What's going on? Peter can do a samba dance. Very well, too, by the way. So festive. Oh, that's not a loop, though. I want a loop. That one looks like a loop. Yeah, there we go. And we'll download without skin. Done. Let's bring in Peter. Oh, that's right. I made a mistake because I exported from Miximo without a skeleton. I actually need that T-pose back from Miximo. So Miximo also has a T-pose. Important lesson. And get a T-pose of the character, and we're going to do it with skin actually because we need that first initial character. I'm gonna find my T-pose and just rename it Peter real quick. This is the first one to bring in. Cool. So the one I tried to upload like 1 second ago. No. The first character was auto rigged because Fuse and Mixamo made it a seamless process because they're the same company. But because I brought in an asset from a third party, it didn't know anything about the geometry, so we had to tell it where the different geometry fine points were. All the textures are in place for Peter, and then I can import the samba dancing onto Peter's skin. I already kind of knew, and we have everything we need. This is a long animation. What it's doing is bringing in all the keyframes for all 65 bones.
When you exported your character from anything, did you include the light map or UV map?
Let's see. I didn't. It's already UV mapped. All the assets are already UV mapped before they can get approved to be part of the like the kind of asset extension. So I already closed the software. We can always take a look at that in a second. I think it is a small character. Let me take a look real quick. So Peter's pretty small. I was supposed to do something different. What I could do is I could delete him and re-import him at a different size. Or I think the animation looked pretty funny if I did that. I can always go into... Let's see how crazy this gets. This is where the import settings. I'm going to say re-import at 100. No? There we go. Now it's the right size, but I'm afraid that all the animations are going to be the wrong size. In fact, I'm 100% sure on it. So I just export it from Make Human way too small. There's an option for doing it decimeters or centimeters. So to be short with it, we'll just bring him in. And Samba's, there we go. So Peter's super happy that Bobby stole this chalice, and he's like celebrating already. Maybe not that much. There we go. He's like, awesome, man. That's so cool. Like, do you want to drink out of it, or do you want to sell it immediately? They're like old friends. Like, they've been playing this one for a while. Come on, get happy. All right. So that's the extent of those softwares. Feel free to spend more time on that than I did, but I think I did a damn good job. Okay, so I don't think that I need Unreal anymore. So let's go to my text doc and make sure I didn't forget anything. We did high-res shot. You guys know how to do that. Make human. No bones, rigging are there. So let's go into OptiTrack real quick, and we'll spend 10 minutes here, and then we'll head over. So, you guys have been in the room before. There's 2 computers in the room, right? 16 cameras and 2 computers. One is for motive, and one is for the game engine, whatever you want to render in, or touch designer, or whatnot. The mocap user is a not very powerful computer. It's more about networking power. It can matrix like tons and tons of cameras together. It's what runs Motive. Motive is the proprietary software made by OptiTrack. Motive is it's actually kind of a joy to use. A lot of people like the aesthetic of it. They actually want their scene to look like Motive, and it does a lot of things really well. I'll let you know right now that a lot of the options that are on the software they're redundant. It gives you like 5 different ways to do the same thing, so there's really not that many buttons in Motive. Let me make it full screen. There you go. So you see we have, this is the first layout. Motive has 4 stages. First, you need to calibrate your system, right? So first thing you do when you go in the room, calibrate, which we'll have fun doing in a second. Then we need to create things. You need to create a skeletal mesh. You need to make those props. So you create everything. Then, and it says what I'm saying, it's capture layout. We're going to capture things. We're going to do our recordings, do our takes. And then later on, we can edit. We're not going to edit in our class. We're doing everything live. As you change these, it'll change the layout of the software so that it gives you all the buttons you need, which is really cool too. I'm going to assume we've already calibrated and created, and I just want to look at data. And here's a bunch of takes over here. Actually, let's take you through the different steps while I have it here screen recorded so you can see it later. The first thing we want to do is mask visible, which means that I want to take anything that is not going to move but is shiny, ignore it, do background subtraction. You can also remove it from the room as well, but sometimes you have like a metal cage in the room and just say, don't even look over there. These are depth cameras. Ignore this side of the room. These are not the droids you're looking for. So get rid of that. But if it can move, let's remove it from the room first. Remove all markers, make the room clean. And so we're going to mask it. You see right here that it has some red dots. Those are masks. Those might be the lights in the ceiling. Those might be the bulbs and the projectors. We want you to ignore that, so that's why you mask visible. Once it's ready for us, we're going to start wanding. We have a calibration wand that we make a point cloud in the room. When we get done with that, we take the ground plane, and I'm going to do this all with you guys, so don't worry, I'm just going over it quickly. We're going to take a ground plane which tells it which way is Z, which way do I want my performers to perform to, which direction. And then from there, it'll make me save, which is beautiful, and we go to the creation layout. We can make a rigid body, which is those like 3 little markers, and we could say, whatever this is, I don't even know what this is. Hope no one's in the room trying to use this right now. Prop 1. So I now have a prop, and as this moves around, it's actually streaming data for that centroid, for that center point. These are probably just 4 things just laying on the floor or something like that, or on a table. So that's a rigid body prop that we can have. And again, it's not taking data from those 4 points. It's figuring out what the centroid is and sending it out. So sometimes you might want to offset that. If you have a prop like a sword, you might want to put the pivot at the hilt so that it has it's getting an animation from a root right there. That's another conversation. So you have that, and then you have a skeleton right here. And then we have different marker sets. These marker sets are about different levels of fidelity. Remember how I told you it did really shitty finger tracking? That's 49 points. 49 points. Where it is doing those ones on the outside fingers, but not tracking here. It's just interpolating the ones in the center. Right? They're averaging it out. Right? So I prefer to do flipper hands. And for this class, for right now, unless somebody gives us, or somebody wants to buy us a $6,000 set of gloves, we're going to do what's called baseline with toe and, 1 second.
Wait, why did you have 6?
Baseline with toe. Because they always throw haptics in there too, and you don't need that. And it's like, yeah, every single brand, like 5,000 to 6,000 is like the range for all. Like I've looked at like 5 or 6 different companies. And this will be more apparent when we get somebody in a suit. What I like to do is the bare minimum is 37 to make a human being. That's right here, baseline. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't give you a toe. It just makes you have a clumpy foot. And there's no need to manually animate a toe as you like walk around. So I give us baseline plus a toe. And that way the foot bends at the toes as you go around. So that's what I'll be using for the class. And then it gives us flipper hands. It knows where the joint of the wrist is, and then it has a marker right here to know which way that wrist is bending. Cool? And then, 2 seconds. If I go back over to my capture layout, I can find a take. Hit play, and it's on loop by default. So this is doing playback from a previous take. And it'll start with a T-pose. That's so the camera's going to understand your human body. If it ever forgets you're a human, you give it a T-pose and it says, oh, there you are. So this is a thing we did for Sundance. This is a piece called Metamorphic that was there last month. And it's just walking to the edge. And like that take we didn't use because the hand started shaking. You see, that was bad data. It was outside the volume, right? See, that's the kind of stuff you have to clean up. It's like losing that elbow because he was too down. So I had to say, hey, actually, can you move your arm like that? And he had to retrain or rethink about the way he was doing the animation. That's the kind of stuff you do as like the technical director. Cool. So this is now, if I go over here, sending data. And do you guys know how to do IP addresses? You know how to know what your network ID is? Bring up a command prompt, CMD, and you say IP config. And then I know I could talk to this computer at its local address. It's 192.168.1.2. It is. Just that's a thing. So this is like how I network into other people's computers. I could talk to your guys' computers and stuff like that. So basically what I want you guys to know is that this computer has this ID, network ID, and that I have another computer. I swear this is not me being lazy. This is just the most efficient way to put everything on one screen recording. So this is the other computer in the room that has all the Unreal Engines installed in there. And its network ID is command prompt IP config 192.168.1.3. So that they're on the same host, and the last number is the different identifiers. It'll be anywhere from 0 to 255, and you can manually assign it, or you can have it dynamically assigned by the router. We're on like a little custom router so that we can do all our network protocols for doing live show control. So what I can do from this is I can open up like Motion Builder. And I already made a week 3 channel using the plugin from OptiTrack for Motion Builder. There's also a plugin for Unity and Unreal, Maya, all this stuff. It's all free. I already installed the one for Motion Builder. It's just like a regular executable. Download it and just double-clicked it, installed. I can actually see that data in Motion Builder as well. Motion Builder is shit layout. It's the worst UX you've ever seen in your entire life. I'm sorry. It's amazing for what it does. And I can only apologize that it is convoluted. I will be there every time you use Motion Builder. We're only doing like 3 things in Motion Builder, though. But it does it so well. Over here in this area, we have a thing called Devices. And there's an option to see OptiTrack skeletal information. Just drag it into whatever. And this is that skeletal plugin where I can actually preview data in Motion Builder. And what's great about this is that I put this on the other projector, and then my character, if we need to, can see what they look like. If they're a bird with a long neck, it can help them get into character and use it as reference. Or just as a director to be able to understand how the character's moving, you can use this and drive it live in another piece of software. So it knows its own local address and server address. It's looking at the server, which is the other computer. It knows its own address, and I can make it go online, and I can get live data, and I can say, let's create a new skeleton, and that looks crazy because I can take screenshots of these. I'm not sending out the right markers or something. If you hit this user guide, it also brings up a PDF of what the streaming settings are supposed to be, which it's different for every single piece of software we use. Screenshots. Just to prove it works. It's a fascinating read, I assure you. But I can probably just guess that I need to go into here and change it from FBX to motive, and this is just the way the bones are labeled. If I go back over here, Do do do. Do do do. All right, I'll try not to riff. I'll try to give you guys actual information. So it's streaming type. Streaming type. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Broad. Sorry, I haven't done this in like 2 weeks, and I forget in like 2 weeks. Okay, it says it should be FBX. So we'll go back and make it FBX. And don't care about rigid bodies for right now. And then after this, we'll just go ahead and go over there and have fun. And we won't worry about anything else. You go away. We'll create a new one. Alright, we won't worry about it. Let's just go have fun. It's 5 o'clock. But you can see there is motion. It just is really confused about the data. Essentially, the next step would be for me to put my character on a thumb drive or email it to myself, and then we just attach them together, and you have a live database. This would just be horrifying to see this data distorting a mesh. It's more important just to get you guys in the mocap. We can always do the mesh when we go into facial capture, okay? We won't worry about that part of the homework. Cool? So let's pack up our things. I'm not coming back here. My backpack's, or my other stuff's over there, so I'm going over there because I'm working over there. But let's go ahead and turn off our computers and whatever you need.